Hey everyone, I'm Colton from MMOHuts.com, and I'm here to give you guys an update on a video that's been in dire need of an update for some time. The landscape of Steam continues to evolve, and in the last year we've seen a number of big MMOs, as well as other genres, shift to the ever-expanding free-to-play model, and the field is wider than it's ever been. So without further ado, here's our 2016 Top 10 Free-to-Play Steam Games. Now, just a quick note about this list. The games that were chosen and the positions we gave them were calculated by evaluating their popularity both on our website and over on Steam. We then adjusted these figures with input from our own team. With that said, let's kick it off with number 10, Tree of Savior. As I recall, two handsome and enterprising young gentlemen did a review of this game in its beta phase back in April of this year, and it's still going strong today. It's a top-down isometric action RPG with 1,000,001 classes and subclasses to play. It has a massive level cap and a very subdued but appealing art style and sound direction. Seriously, the class list in this game goes on forever. I started reading it to prep for a review back in April and I've still not reached the end of the list. You've got the Swordsman, the Highlander, the Peltasta, which is some kind of pasta dish, I think, Barbarian, a Hoplite, a Cataphract, a Rodolero. It's just insane. That's only a tenth of the list. The game is definitely designed with a certain player base in mind, specifically people who enjoy games like its predecessor, Ragnarok Online, as well as games like Disgaea and other NIS-style strategy games where leveling is a grind, but an enjoyable one. I'll give a warning though, if grinding isn't your thing, don't bother with this one. You're gonna get bored, and you're gonna get bored quick. Number 9 is Unturned. Clocking in at number 9 on our list is Unturned. It's a game that features as an antagonist a zombie chef. That is a sentence that someone gave me money to say. The horrifying yet somehow strangely endearing love child of Minecraft and DayZ, this survival horror game takes the stuff all the Legos into the computer approach of Minecraft and adds a competitive survival element to it that really motivates players to find food and resources in a timely fashion. Multiplayer is a big focus of this game, and you'll need all the help you can get to make it out alive. You could find resources around the world by doing things like fishing, hunting, and discovering abandoned buildings and shops. And rather uniquely, some of these elements of the game are controlled by the community, which is kind of like trusting your toddler to perform an appendectomy. The game breaks out of the fantasy setting of its forebearers with the addition of guns and vehicles. It's a nice touch to make survival and maneuvering in this nicely put together open world a touch easier, but trust me, surviving here is no easy feat. Number 8, Brawlhalla. Fighting game fans, this one's for you. Brawlhalla takes the 8th spot on our list, and you competitive Smash Bros. Players owe it to yourselves to check this game out. It features a pretty intricate combat system that allows for everything you'd expect from the game it's inspired by. Cancels, dodging, wall jumping, items, and ledge grabbing. There's currently 26 different characters with different weapons and strengths, and playstyles to suit just about anyone. More characters are being added to the game over time, so there'll always be something new and exciting to change things up. The game has an ever-growing competitive scene as well, with lots of tournaments, and it offers online rankings so you can see how you stack up against everyone else in the world who's playing. The game can take a while to master and to be competent at, though, so consider this before you pick it up and play. Number 7, War Thunder. You want planes? We've got planes. Just about every plane you can think of. Truly the best planes. You're gonna love the planes we have. They're really tremendous. Tanks are on display as well, and they provide an interesting dynamic for people looking for a break from all the remarkable planes that they have. War Thunder takes the 7th spot on our list, down a bit from its previously held number 3 spot. This game has been receiving updates. In fact, they're even adding naval combat soon, and still offers its 3 main modes, arcade, simulator, and realism, and it's available on just about every platform ever. Seriously, it's got PS4, PC, Mac, Commodore 64, Capcom CPS2 arcade system, Texas Instruments TI-84 Plus, it's all there. Gameplay is decently fast-paced and has an element of resource management with fuel and ammunition, though it's never left to guessing. In the modes that I played, fuel readouts were given in time, so I always knew exactly how long I had left before I needed to start worrying about anything. There's quite a satisfying feeling to shooting down other planes, and this game seems to capture it perfectly. While I prefer my dogfights in space, War Thunder does offer a great and in certain modes extraordinarily realistic look at the World War II era aerial combat. The game also boasts cross-platform play, so you can shout swear words at children from any platform you want, from the comfort of whatever system you own. Yeah, that'll learn them. Number 6. Paladins. Paladins is just a poor man's Overwatch, I hear you typing into the YouTube comments as fast as your Cheeto-dusted fingers will fly. Well, my sweet little neckbeard, for once you're not wrong. And that's not a bad thing. We covered Paladins with a first look when it was in closed beta over on MMOHuts.com, and I recall having some pretty strong feelings about it. The game was unbalanced, frustrating, and it led to one lopsided match after another. With that said, however, what a tremendous turnaround this game has had. The game recently entered open beta, and having not touched it since hi-rez made their massive overhauls to it, I have to say it feels like a completely different game. And that game's name is Overwatch. I'd be lying if I said there weren't similarities between the two games. Anyone with eyeballs can see that. There are a lot of things, though, that Paladin does better, in my opinion, and that make it totally worth playing. First is the time spent between a player death and returning to the action is a third of what it is in Overwatch, with the addition of mounts that you can get on after respawning that get you back to combat zones faster. Also, the ability to design how your character levels up and modifies their powers with trading card system is fun, although you can't trade them. You can also buy items mid-match to augment your character's strengths and weaknesses as it progresses, kind of like buying items in Smite or other MOBAs. No changing characters mid-match though, which is perfectly fine. If you're looking for a competitive shooter experience that combines elements of MOBAs and games like TF2 and Overwatch, you're in the right place with Paladins. Or maybe you want a more sci-fi shooting experience, like our number 5 game, Warframe. Warframe is quite an interesting little game. In truth, it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to say it laid the groundwork for games like Destiny to come along after it. Warframe is a third-person shooter where you control a character called a Warframe, and you team up with friends to run a number of instance-based missions in the name of advancing story and getting the loot. Each Warframe has its own unique stats, abilities, and weapons, and the story is fairly typical science fiction fare. You have to stop the Gnir from conquering the solar system, and honestly, looking at the way things are going with it, why don't we just let them have it and they can sort it out? But either way, you do so by solving it the good old American way by putting bullets in it. Visually, the game is quite appealing, and the new content is pretty consistently being added. It's currently available on PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Of course, it is a Steam game, but like with a few other games on our list, the console versions are a patch behind and cross-platform play isn't an option here, so if you want to set the human race back 100 years with all the bile you'll undoubtedly spew, you'll have to do it to a limited audience. Number 4, Path of Exile. People still like Diablo 2, right? The answer is a resounding apparently, because number 4 on our list is Path of Exile. Honestly, this game feels quite a lot like Diablo 2 or Untold Legends, and that's in the best way possible. Visually, it's not terrible to look at, but not as pretty as games like Diablo 3 or others that have come after it. But it has preserved everything that was great about the dungeon crawling classic before its charm ran off in a cave to die of dysentery. The classes are just what you'd expect, and the skill trees are massive, which means that the customization options are incredibly deep. Although lots of people on the internet will tell you that there are only certain ways you should bother to spec your characters to really maximize their power, but what do they know? They spend all their time sounding off in YouTube comments. This game is of course multiplayer, and in a lot of cases I found it was best to play with friends, as the difficulty can get out of hand if you're trying to solo things. If you dig old-fashioned dungeon crawling gameplay with an updated look, this game is a must-have. Number 3, Smite. We finally reached the top 3 of our list, and number 3 is one that's near and dear to most of us here at MMOHuts.com. It's Smite! Smite debuted as a major competitor in the then-expanding MOBA market and offered some serious changes to the formula that have helped its longevity massively. The unique third-person perspective, as opposed to the traditional top-down RTS-style view, with a reliance entirely on the player's ability to aim and land skill shots, really offered something different in terms of gameplay, and the use of characters taken directly from real-world belief systems mean the game had to do very little to establish familiarity with its roster. Smite is one of the most played MOBAs of today and has a thriving competitive scene that's having its 3rd World Championships in January of 2017. If you're a fan of MOBAs and want to try something a little different than the norm, you should definitely have been playing Smite yesterday. Number 2, Team Fortress 2. Of course number 2 is Team Fortress 2, and it should come as a shock to nobody. The game has been a mainstay of thousands of PC gamers for years now. In fact, let's take a moment to observe the hands of time ripping life away from us slowly by acknowledging that this game was released in 2007, and it still has a player base of almost 70,000 players daily. The game's transition to a free-to-play model in 2011 was subject to controversy from people who had already paid for the game, including me, but it clearly subsided to some degree as the game is still going strong and events and new content are still being added. Unique equipment and outfits for classes can be purchased through microtransactions or won through chests, but it's entirely cosmetic. When it comes to class-based shooters, Team Fortress practically wrote the book on it, and it's a game you should definitely consider downloading straight away if that's your thing. Number 1. So here it is, the number 1 game on our list. The big one. The biggest and best free-to-play game on Steam. It's Dota 2! Now, before you work yourself into a stroke over how it's not your favorite game in this spot, just take a deep breath and let me get to it. Dota 2 is probably the second most played MOBA out there, and its lineage is well documented. Without the original Dota mod for Warcraft 3, we wouldn't really have MOBAs as a genre in the first place, and Valve partnering with its creator to bring about a standalone sequel was a genius move. The game has, in the past, had the largest prize pool in its genre for the competitive scene, and it's still going strong today. Changes are still being added, and it features a player base of over 1 million players every day. With mechanics based on the original mod for Warcraft 3 that deepen the gameplay in a way that's conspicuous by its absence in other leading games in this genre, like minion and tower denial, as well as couriers and the ability for players to take control of their AFK or disconnected teammates, it's not hard to see why Dota 2, as far as Steam is concerned, is the king of the heap. Anything you wanted to see that didn't make the cut? Think a game is too high or low on the list? Let us know about it in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to MMOHuts on YouTube and check out MMOHuts.com for all the latest gaming news and reviews.